Madagascar is a valuable sanctuary for biodiversity in the Indian Ocean and around the world. 90% of its fauna and more than 19,000 species of its flora are endemic. This immense wealth requires particular and sustained attention. Then, at the impulse of the Malagasy State, Conservation International and WWF, Madagascar Protected Areas and Biodiversity Fund, a trust fund for conservation, was created in 2005 to provide sustainable funding to the network of Madagascar's protected areas. Through its funding, FAPBM aims to achieve sustainable impacts, such as keep biodiversity intact, so that nature can continue providing goods and services necessary for the well-being and development of communities, the development of local communities bordering the protected areas, whose livelihood depends directly on how they exploit them, strengthening the management of protected areas by supporting their managers towards efficiency and sustainable financial autonomy. To be able to obtain funding and deploy its actions to achieve its objectives, FAPBM raises funds by several means, through the mobilization of bilateral and multilateral funds, granted by cooperation agencies such as KfW, AFD or the World Bank, or even non-governmental organizations engaged in conservation, like WWF or CI, through submissions to global or regional calls for proposals, such as the Global Environment Facility, or thanks to the contribution of the private sector. To enable FAPBM to achieve the desired impacts, the FAPBM's donors can subsequently choose the appropriate funding modalities and mechanism, which include three types of funds. The endowment fund, used as capital of FAPBM, it is funded by institutional or individual contributors, placed on secure financial markets, and generates annual interests that will be used to finance Madagascar's protected areas. Robust, this mechanism ensures long-term impacts and secures recurring loads. The sinking fund, which is a fund entrusted to FAPBM to finance certain protected areas over a limited period, for example from 3 to 5 years. This funding is directed primarily to the medium-term priorities of the protected area. The funds with management agreement, which is a project-based funding. The fund remains the property of the donor. FAPBM is responsible for its management. This mechanism will allow the donor to focus on his core business by entrusting FAPBM with the financial component. Finally, how does FAPBM use the funding it receives? FAPBM funds annual grants to protected areas selected according to its prioritization manual, and whose criteria incorporates several parameters. This grant is used primarily to help managers cover part of their operating costs. Emergency funding may additionally be provided to protected area managers to address specific threats that can jeopardize some or all of the ecological integrity of the protected area. Finally, a support fund for the strengthening of protected areas is intended to address the unforeseen needs of protected areas, such as an opportunity to acquire additional knowledge or the consequences of varying circumstances. Through a rigorous monitoring system, FAPBM ensures the proper use of the funds it grants and the achievement of the impacts it seeks.